Oregon's Kenyan Sadiq didn't just run a 40. He staged a localized sonic boom. 4.39 seconds. That's it. That's the tweet. He officially dusted Vernon Davis's 20-year-old record, and now the internet is acting like he's some unicorn sent from the future to save the position. Unguardable! The evolution of the game! Okay, everyone, just take a breath. Look, a 4.39 at 240-something pounds is terrifying. On paper. But let's be real. Sadiq was basically a glorified wide receiver last year. He caught 51 balls and was the Big Ten's best, sure. But the NFL is a different beast. The overreaction here is thinking track speed automatically equals a dominant NFL tight end. Is he actually gonna block a 270-pound defensive end? Like, really? If he can't handle a chip block, he's not a tight end. He's just a slow wide receiver. Great engine, but let's see him get his hands in the dirt first. He's not the only one jumping up draft boards. Literally. If you thought Sadiq was a freak, wait until you meet the man who almost touched the stadium lights. Vanderbilt's Eli Stowers must have actual springs in his cleats. He posted a 45.5-inch vertical jump, which is just not human. For context, that's higher than basically everyone in the NBA, and now everyone is saying he's a guaranteed first-round mismatch. Look, out-jumping a giraffe is a cool party trick, but Stowers is a converted QB who is still, well, learning how to actually do the job. Teams are falling in love with his ceiling, but the floor is incredibly shaky. He skipped the ball drills in Indy, which, honestly, is a massive red flag for a guy whose hands were inconsistent on tape. You can jump to the moon, man, but if you can't catch the moon when it's thrown to you, you're just a very athletic guy standing in the wrong place. Stowers is an elite project, not an elite prospect. There's a massive difference. From guys who are too jumpy to a guy whose arms are apparently too short. Let's talk about the 30-inch arm apocalypse. Okay, we have to talk about the internet's new favorite number, 30 7/8 inches. That is the official length of Ruben Bain Jr.'s arms. And from the way the draft Twitter scouts are melting down, you'd think he showed up to the combine with no arms at all. Critics are screaming that he's undraftable in the top 10 because he doesn't meet the 33-inch threshold. If you haven't heard of the threshold, it's basically this imaginary line NFL GMs use to feel safe. But let's be real, this is the ultimate combine overreaction. Look, Bain was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. He had 83 pressures last season, the most in the entire country. He's a walking highlight reel of violence and technique. If his arms were too short, how did he spend all of last year bullying 300-pound offensive tackles? How did he rack up 20.5 sacks over his career at Miami? The drama in Indy got even weirder when Bain actually addressed it at the podium. He basically laughed it off, saying teams haven't even brought it up in interviews. He called it social media stuff. And honestly, he's right. This is the classic scouting the silhouette mistake. We're looking for a guy who looks like a Greek god instead of a guy who actually plays like one. For some context, only 5 edge rushers in the last decade have been drafted with arms under 32 inches. It's rare, sure, but we've seen guys like Marcus Golden, who had 51 career sacks, succeed with similar builds. If your team passes on a generational talent like Bain because they're obsessed with a tape measure, you deserve to watch him sack your quarterback for the next 10 years. Short arms are a red flag for some, but our next prospect has a stat sheet so perfect it looks like a cheat code. Arkansas RB, Mike Washington Jr. did the impossible. He scored a perfect 10.0 relative athletic score, RAS. Out of over 2,000 running backs tested since 1987, he is officially ranked number 1. He's 223 pounds and ran a 4.33. People are losing it over his 1.5 1-second 10-yard split. The dude accelerates like a Tesla. But honestly, we need to talk about the perfect 10 obsession. We see a 10.0 and we think automatic superstar. But the combine doesn't test vision. It doesn't test if a guy can actually find the hole when his line breaks down. Washington was a two-star recruit coming out of high school, and it took him years to get his football IQ to match his legs. He's a big-bodied burner, which is great. But if he goes to a team with a bad offensive line, all that speed just helps him run into a brick wall faster. And if you need a reason to be skeptical of combined warriors, just look at Shamar Stewart from last year. Remember him? Another perfect 10.0 freak from Texas A&M. He blew the roof off the building in 2025, went 17th overall to the Bengals, and then, well, he basically disappeared. Between a contract holdout and a lingering knee injury, he finished his rookie year with, get this, 1 single sack. 1. Athleticism is the entry fee, guys. It's not the whole game. If you draft Mike Washington Jr. thinking he's a finished product because of a math equation, you're setting yourself up for heartbreak. And speaking of athletes, what happens when a QB runs faster than the receivers? You get a hype train that's officially gone off the rails. Taylon Green is 6 feet 6 inches, runs a 4.36, and broke the QB vertical record at 43.5 inches. He looks like a create-a-player from Madden come to life. The overreaction? That he's a top 5 pick who's gonna revolutionize the league. Guys, his college completion percentage was, let's go with adventurous. The NFL graveyard is full of athletic QBs who couldn't read a basic defense. Green is a lottery ticket. If he hits, he's a superstar. If he misses, he's just a guy who's really fast at running out of bounds. Calling him the next Vic or Josh Allen ignores the massive amount of developmental work he still needs in the pocket. He's a project with a Ferrari engine and a student driver behind the wheel. While everyone is obsessed with the guys who ran fast, what about the family reunion that just took over Indianapolis? The Styles brothers basically turned the combine into a family reunion. Sonny, linebacker, ran a 4.46 at 244 pounds, and Lorenzo Jr., safety, clocked a 4.27, the fastest safety time in over 2 decades. Sonny is 6 feet 5 inches and jumping 43 inches. He looks like he was grown in a lab to stop modern offenses. But the overreaction? That there can't miss superstars right now. Lorenzo is still transitioning from wide receiver to DB, and Sonny is still figuring out the full-time LB role. They're elite athletes, but they aren't finished products yet. Don't crown them before they've actually played a snap at their new positions in the pros. What about the guys who didn't run at all? Every year, a handful of top prospects like Jermid McCoy or Fernando Mendoza choose to skip certain drills, and every year, the old-school analysts lose their minds. The overreaction? That these players lack competitive fire or are hiding something. In reality, these guys have millions of dollars on the line, and sometimes the risk just isn't worth the reward. Take Jermid McCoy, the corner from Tennessee. He's arguably the top CB in the class, but he's still coming off that ACL tear from early 2025. He was actually cleared for the combine, but he chose to wait for his pro day to show off his speed. Why? Because he wants that extra month of training to prove his explosiveness is back at 100%. If he runs a decent 4.5 now, instead of a blazing 4.4 later, he loses millions. It's not about fear, it's about business. Then you have Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman winner from Indiana. He's basically the consensus #1 pick for the Raiders, and he chose not to throw a single pass in Indy. The traditionalists are calling it a duck, but honestly, if you've already won a national championship and a Heisman, what do you gain by throwing to receivers you've never met in a quiet stadium? We see this with the wideouts too. Mekhi Lemon and Jordan Tyson both sat out the 40. Lemon still went through the positional drills and looked like a total technician, but he skipped the stopwatch. Does that make him slow? No, it just means he's letting his tape do the talking. The idea that a player isn't a football guy because they didn't run in Indy is peak combine silliness. Their tape is their resume, the combine is just the cover letter. If you liked a guy on Saturday in November, you shouldn't hate him on Sunday in March just because he didn't want to run in spandex.